back to the weekly roundup, the place where we unpack what's going on in the yoga and wellness world and what we've been coaching our clients through. I'm throwing it right to Josh today. Just let's start us off, boss. What do you got?
That was the passive aggressive, nice way of saying Josh is on his fucking high horse this morning, running his mouth. We haven't even started yet, and he's already running his mouth. Can we talk about marketing? I mean, look, everyone talks about marketing all the time. Is it? Yeah. Put your hand up if you don't want to talk. No, sorry, I don't even. Don't get me started on democracy right now. Canadian election just went through, and it was wild.
It was so wild.
Let me say this. Huge asterisks. Canadian politics are not exciting. Like, they are so boring versus the United States. The worst slander campaign in Canadian history was when the Conservative Party was slamming Trudeau 8 years ago, 10 years ago by saying, well, he's got nice hair, but he's just not ready. Like, that was the slander campaign. And it made national news. They're like, oh my God, they commented on his hair. Whatever. Anyways. You almost derailed me. Marketing, actually, no, the Canadian election, I think, is a good example of marketing. I'll tie it in a second. I've now had the conversation with no less than 5 studios in the last month where they say, we need more people in, we just don't have enough people in, which is sometimes even the case. But then when we follow up and say, like, cool, so what are you doing to get people in? They don't say this. They all have a list of things that they're doing. And I'm not casting any shade or whatever. I get it. Like, you're where you're at in your business. That's why we're here to help. But when we really look at it, like, what are you doing? They're not doing anything. And it's one of these branches in the business where this is way too common. So tough love time, like, I got to call it out when we see it. Just the number of studios out there. If you're thinking, I need more people in the doors, start asking some really hard questions. Not, are you asking your people to bring them in, or I put a flyer up, or I have like a weird GIF or like a quote card on my Facebook page. Like, how many video Facebook posts of significance did you attempt to make and post this week? If it wasn't 7, there's room. You know what I'm saying? I'm not saying that you have to post every day. I'm not saying that's what's going to solve it. I'm just saying there's an effort component here in marketing that I'm just not seeing studios really go after. And I think it's because of marketing has sort of like evergreen stuff you do, where you build an engine that produces a result. For example, we build an engine that makes content, and the content gets distributed in these channels, and et cetera, and then we improve it over time. And then there's finite marketing you do, which is an event. Oh, I don't know. Let's get people in. Let's run a yoga challenge or do a workshop to invent some random idea to talk about ourselves. I'm going to say it harsh, not because this is 100% true, but like, no one gives a shit about your workshop. If the goal is get people in the doors, no one cares about your workshop. There is no workshop that most local yoga studios can run with anybody that people who are not in the studio currently practicing on a membership and be like, oh my God, I can't believe Carol ran this workshop. I better come in and join membership and get the fuck in there and try it out now. Said no one ever. Like, that's just not how that works. So there's my rant. Marketing, I have a minute to you guys. Just, you got to start doing repetitive action and sort of start solving the evergreen, build a mechanism that does marketing instead of just this random one-off stuff, especially if you're going to complain about it.
Well, I think one practical, because oftentimes, like, well, where do I start? Where do I start? So, well, let's see. Maybe start with your product, your studio, your staff, and develop just put together a calendar. So if you're haphazardly posting, maybe you're set your first goal, we're going to post 3 times a week, every week, right? If you're doing it like one-off, that's a huge improvement there. Just upping your posting to a regular cadence. And maybe you do it Mondays, Thursdays, and Saturdays, or something like that. So do it at a regular cadence, and then just create a content calendar. Okay, we're going to focus on this, and then here's a series of posts we can do about certain things within the studio. Like, we had a client just did a whole really cute like tour of they're doing a free yoga week. It was super cute. They just did a cute little video about, hey, welcome to our space. One of the things is cleanest bathrooms in town kind of thing. And so you can do those type of things as well and just create that calendar and then have someone who does it. If it's you, great. If not, have someone who does it. And here's the thing, tell them exactly what they need to do. Because that's the other thing I find is an issue. Is you say something, oh, they're doing my social media for me at the studio, whoever it is, but that person has no clear guidance on what they should be doing. Like the cadence of posts, what type of post, is there a calendar? So start with that and then just start posting. Now, Carol, what did you do?
What's coming to mind is, those studio owners and guilty, like you run an ad for 2 weeks and you're just like shocked that people didn't just walk in the door, you turn it off. And so I think that's the first thing is like that evergreen campaign that just talks about your intro, and you have to run it long term. That's sort of like I think a very surprising thing to a lot of studio owners when we start, working with them, is just having it has to go for a while and then you can tweak it. Like, are people clicking on it? You have to go back and actually check on it to make sure it's working. But yeah, the idea that you're just going to turn something on and like sell this thing right away and you're going to see the results, 2-3 weeks later is that's not how it works. So it's long term, it's ever growing and going. And then, like you're saying, Terry, I think part of the marketing should be also your staff, your students. Like it's easy, I think, to say every month I'm going to post, about highlighting one staff member and one student, a student spotlight, a staff spotlight, and maybe a class spotlight. And that's all part of building that momentum. And yeah, so those are the kinds of things that we started doing to get the word out there consistently.
I would say one thing that I feel like I'm very much in the trenches of marketing all the time as a current studio owner. And one thing that is just really true is it's so overwhelming because like even in this conversation that we've just had, like we've talked about sort of like 3 different kind of totally different aspects of your marketing. Like we've got paid ads, we're talking about like workshops, we're talking, and all of that is so different. Like all of it involves like different needs and different sort of cadences and all that sort of stuff. So I am really interested right now in like, for years, I also thought my problem was that not enough people were coming in the door, and mostly that wasn't the main issue for a long time. Now we do have this really well-oiled machine and we could use more people coming in the door. So now I am interested in starting to think about like, like I've talked to agencies. So I'm really curious about your guys' thoughts about agencies who help you with this sort of thing. But one thing that I wanted to mention about sort of that, like I would say maybe like a step lower than that of just like you're basically like putting stuff on social media or into your marketing list. One thing that really helped us with that was we stopped doing like one-off workshops really. And I'm not saying that's like, for sure the best thing for everybody, but our actual money maker events and workshops and series are the ones that we run over and over and over again. And not are they just good money makers, they're amazing advertising for us because they're consistent. We like have a plan that we do every time. They make us post on social media out of necessity. They make us send emails. And so having like really thinking about starting to work in more like regular, like we've got a monthly women's circle, we've got prenatal and postpartum series that go on all the time, we've got a beginner series that goes on quarterly. Those are so much easier to start actually seeing results from your marketing. So those are my thoughts.
I like that. I think what you're highlighting and Because yes, marketing as a subject in your studio is just enormous. There's so much to it. And so you've got to kind of simplify it down, consolidating some of the conversation. What's the goal with marketing in general? We all say like get more people in the doors. So that's a lead. I think that you have a lead in your yoga studio when someone books their class. That's the moment that it's happened. Prior to that, you can still, there's some lead generation activity, but it's like you're trying to get that action to happen. So that's number one. Number two is brand. It's getting your brand awareness. It's about brand awareness. Like you have to be able to be recalled by the people in your market. And this is an important one that I feel like people, to Carol's point about you got to run something for a while. There's only 3% of the market that's ready to buy something that you have right now, max. But that's a rotating 3%. When I'm ready, if I'm not ready today, but maybe I'm ready in 6 months, I have to remember you. So for a lot of services out there, I think that people don't understand that the reason that I will go to that service is purely because I can friggin' remember you. I can pull your name up in my brain and do it. Because if it's not that, then it's going to be 100% based off of search and convenience, which is price and location. That's it. So I have to be able to recall you, which means I have to see you a few times and with some consistency, even if the message you're saying doesn't matter to me. But going back to some of the stuff we were saying too, like the place to start, if you think about it with the studio, if the average studio has, let's keep it small, 10 teachers, plus a couple front desk people and 3 class types. Like that's not even a big studio by any means. If every teacher equals 2 core messages, like a story about the teacher, a superhero origin story, and then something specific about the teacher's teaching experience or whatever. And every class has like 3 things to say about it, like who this class is for and what it does, why the class is fun and cool, like the benefit and transformation specific to the class. And then the whole studio also has like why our total product is good and what it solves. Just that content alone, which is basically what you're going to put on a website. What is that? 10 times 2 is 20, 3 times 2 is another 6. We got 26. Like you've got almost 50 pieces of, like I'm doubling it now because you could just do it twice basically, but you've got like 50 pieces of content just talking about what the fuck do you do. We're not even getting more specific. We're not talking about detailed benefits. We're not talking about yoga philosophy. We're not talking like nothing. Then you start going through like not doing posture tutorials because for top of funnel, for people who don't know you, that won't land very often because they don't have any context for why they'd listen. But you could go through half your postures that you teach and be like, okay, the benefit of doing this posture is this type of alignment. And then you talk about like why that alignment matters and then show that posture. I'm just saying there's infinite content to be created. It's just a matter of getting in the flow of the creation of it. So it doesn't have to be that complicated. Just talk about who you are, where you are, what you do to begin with. Have an ad running like Carol's saying that's like, come join us, here's the intro, and just have that repetitively going out. That will get a result if you have it going all the time. If it's just consistently out there, you will see results from that. And that isn't happening. I want to make a second point here because I want to bring the Canadian election back in as I told you that I would. Why did the Conservative Party, who was so far ahead in the polls, 25 points ahead, suddenly get caught up by the Liberals who have been in government in Canada for a long time? It's because of Trump.
I was just say Trump.
It's because of Trump. And so this is a lesson in marketing in that a common enemy is a very strong motivator. If I hate something and you hate something, we rally around that a lot. Canada's had the most patriotic movement I've ever seen in my life in the last 6 months. It is wild. I'm talking seriously wild. People will not buy American products for the first time ever. It's just sitting dying on the shelves. The pro-Canada movement right now is like It's never been like that for us. And has never been this level of patriotism. It's always been more global, I suppose. So the point being, the poll shifted because Carney, who got in, when you ask people, they believe that he is more equipped to stand up against Trump than the Conservative Party leader. So it's not even, which is a silly way to vote, but it's just like there's a cause and a belief around that. Most of the people who previously were like, I want to vote the Conservatives in, I like what their direction for the government, are like, yeah, but I don't believe that he can fight off Trump. So the common enemy. The point about marketing here is that in a story, because we memorize stories and marketing is next as a memorization, there's often a villain or a cause because it's a centralizing force. That's hard to do as a yoga studio, but in terms of like a person or something like that. But the villain for yoga is if you don't practice and your life is shitty, you don't feel good, you're inflexible, you can't move, you get injured easily, you're not taking care of yourself, you're stuck on pharmaceuticals, blah, 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 blah. Like that's the villain, or an example of what a villain could be for a yoga studio. So I wouldn't hyper focus the message there, but I'm just saying it's something that I've seen people lean away from in the yoga world in the last little bit. And there's value in leaning into it. There's value in leaning into like, yeah, your belief around you practice this for a holistic, healthy life. And it's because you don't want to have not a holistic, healthy life. This is what that would look like, which is borderline controversial, but that's actually the point. It's like get controversy. People say controversy sells. I wouldn't say it like that, but controversy gets people to pay attention.
I was going to say what you're talking about, Josh, about it's the regular posting stuff, the concept of top of mind awareness. You know, it's like getting your name out there over and over and over again so that they just, when they think yoga, they're like, oh, there's this hot yoga studio, or oh, there's this honey yoga, or there's pure hot yoga. It's like when they hear yoga, they think of your name. You know, a great example of this is when I was looking to buy a car, I decided I like this certain type of car, and all of a sudden it was a Lexus IS 300, but this is back in the early aughts, and it was a relatively new product for Lexus, and all of a sudden I was seeing them everywhere. Now, it's not like overnight all these people went out and bought this car. It's that because I was focused on wanting to get this type of car, now all of a sudden I was seeing them all over the place. So same thing with what Josh and everybody's saying. It's a reticular activating system. Okay, you're going to have to tell me what that means in a second, Bridget. So, yeah, tell us what that means, Bridget, because my thought just went out of my head. No, that's okay.
So sorry, Terry. No, that's just the mechanism in your brain that makes you do that. It's like the red car thing. We just talked about it in YTT this weekend. So yeah. But no, I think you were talking about how if like you notice something, then suddenly you see it everywhere. And so like it's in your brain and you're primed to notice that one over other ones. Like if you do a search for yoga studios and you've been seeing like honey yoga over and over again somewhere else, then that'll be like the one that like pops out.
Or to that point, Bridget, to your point with that is like, oh, I'm looking for yoga. Oh, there's that honey yoga. And then I go in and I put in the search honey yoga. I don't just put in hot yoga or yoga. I put in honey yoga because I've been seeing your ad. I've been seeing this. I've been seeing that. Even if I don't even look at it, but just on my feed, I see your name. I see something that's interesting. It's like, oh, that's the name I'm typing in. So that, I think, to your point, Josh, is a lot of what you're talking about is just raising that level of awareness so that there is an association between yoga and you, not just yoga.
And it's repetition. It's repetition. I mean, there's other components to it, but in the end, it's repetition. You could have a shitty message and it like, not a shitty message, but like a message that's suboptimal, but it's just repetitively going out there and people will remember it. I mean, it's very yogic if you think about it. Step one for yoga, it doesn't matter what we're talking about, awareness. Like everything I'm reading, we talked about this a few weeks back and months back. Carol and I were talking about it quite a bit. That like I could make a strong argument for any problem anyone has about anything being associated with awareness first. Like that's like the only thing to solve. And that's sort of a more yoga philosophical viewpoint of it. Because once the second that you become aware of something, then choice comes back into the equation. But a little tangent aside, from a marketing perspective, it's just that's what it is. This particular activating system is your safety mechanism for awareness or for growth awareness to just be able to recall something. And I don't know if you guys are experiencing this, but I noticed myself, like sometimes I sit down at the end of a day doing something because we work online so much, and then I take some notes on like, okay, today I was looking for this or I did this. What did I do? Like, how did I find it? What were my actions? Where did I go first? And so one of the things I've really noticed is there's a concept called enshittification, like the making of something shittier. And there's a whole rant I could go on about this. I know it's a funny, funny phrase. I don't know who coined it, but I love it. But Google search has been going through enshittification for a long time. And so right now, I realize for myself, I don't know if you guys experience this, I don't trust the search results anymore. I think most of them are crap. So if I'm in New York and I've heard about a studio from Carol, from Terry, from Bridget, and then I search for a yoga studio and the studio that I've heard about is not on there, I will actively keep searching to find it because I want my confirmation bias. Now I might look at it and be like, inconvenient, I don't like it, the message isn't good, this place is crap, I'm going there. But I don't even trust Google anymore in the same way. That like that studio, because you've mentioned it, might not be in the top 3, top 5, and I'll keep looking for it anyways if I can recall its name. Basically, the recall component, like it has a lot of power, I would say. Go ahead, Bridget.
The other thing, like the other reason why just continuing to post or to just like do stuff anywhere, I think is really important is like there's so much flux with small businesses all the time. And when I know that a small business is posting all the time, to me, that means, okay, they're like around, they're open, they're doing stuff. Like, I know that if I show up, like they'll know what to do with me or whatever. And like I always say, if you have Google or Meta ads on, even if they're not related to the ads, you should still be posting every day or have a story always on, because when someone clicks your ad, they should go to your page and it should look like somewhere where people live, like there's stuff going on. And yeah, I just think that's really important for just like looking like you have the lights on sort of thing, which I'm also really big on in my studio. The lights should be on if we're open. And I think that's part of like the sending emails constantly, but always sending emails, always, being alive, like being around.
It's such a good call out. I experienced this. I just did a podcast with Connie Holan. It'll be coming out pretty soon. And this is something we talked about, was that it's interesting to live in Mexico because a lot of business practice in Mexico is like 20 years behind. And mostly because it doesn't have to modernize certain things. So it's slower moving. But here, the number of places that don't have a website, they maybe have an Instagram, they probably have just a Facebook page, But then to your point, like there was a motorcycle dealership in PV, and it was so hard for me to find them and their number. And then I finally found a Facebook page of theirs, and their last post was like 6 months ago, and it was just like a repost from their headquarters. I'm just like, is this like legitimately, is this place even open? And it was, but coincidentally, now it's gone out of business. It closed up. You're like, well, guess what? Because no one's fucking going there because you can't tell if you're open in the first place, and it's possible to get your contact. Like, so studios aren't operating on that level. But to your point, just that confirmation of you're the active place with something going on. I don't know what the language for this is, but it must be that it's some connection in our minds about word of mouth stuff. I always think about this online, that like if you're in a town or somewhere, everyone you know in your circle is talking about something, like you pay attention to it, you look for it, you start participating in it too. Online is an amplifier of this. If you keep seeing something all the time, and then on top of it, if Carol tells me about it, like that's how things quote unquote go viral. It's like this is the conversation of the moment. It's the trending thing, or the other words that we use for this. But like that makes something relevant that otherwise might not have been relevant for you. And I think people have forgotten that yoga's done its fad phase. Yoga's not going anywhere, and yoga's not going anywhere. But there was a fad moment. Like yoga debatably started a lot of boutique fitness. So there was a moment in certain markets where it's like, we always say it was a license to print money. If you had the right studio in the right location, like that was it, because there was some shitty box gym or that. And at that point, box gyms, there wasn't even, you know, there were barely any female only gyms. There were like gyms weren't even culturally cool at the moment in the same way. So it was a little bit of cheating. We didn't have to market in the same way. That part of it's gone. You're not just automatically going to get seen and remembered, and you're not, this is the harsh truth. Right now, you're not automatically going to be cool because you have a yoga studio. Like, just yoga studio over the door doesn't mean that's a cool place. It might mean it's like a real boring place. That's not how the public looks at it. So you've got to insert yourself in the conversation in your market.
I want to pivot for a sec, because I thought I had to link this, Josh. So, okay, so you're doing all this fabulous marketing, and you're getting all these people to come in the door, and then what happens? Right? Then what happens? So whilst, again, that's not I love that word. Whilst you're doing all of this marketing, it is an opportunity to level up your team. And starting by really, we talk about this a lot, and I want you to look at this from the other side on this, is that getting your staff, even before you do any training or anything, getting them to really buy in and understand why the things you're doing are important. And even before you start doing any training, is talking to them, and seriously talking to them, and ask them, how do you feel about this? What do you think about this? What do you feel about this? Oh, and then let's talk about that. And what I'm speaking to directly is sales. And it's like just finding out from the very beginning and telling them this is what we're doing. And I really want to hear from you so that you understand where their anxiety and truly fear and maybe their resistance comes in, so that you can actually start addressing that and develop the training based upon that. Right. And so the reason I bring this up is that when we were talking before, Josh, it got me to think the onsite I just did in the Netherlands. There was one teacher there that had told the owner was incredibly anxious about the training, really, really anxious about it. And then when we went through it, and part of it was I just asked him questions about where his fear was coming from, what was his resistance, what was he thinking, and I just let him talk, and then we talked about it. And then obviously with some skill, I was able to get him to talk around and bring him to why it was important. So he started to really buy into the why, and he went from being the person there that was like really nervous, really anxious, not bought in, and he is now the cheerleader of the training process. So I don't know if this is a new point or not, Josh, but I just thought I would talk about it from that perspective, is that because sales training and the first visit flow and all that stuff is incredibly important, because we do see this. If you have all these people coming in, but you're failing to convert them, then that's another problem, right? Because you're doing all of this social media, you're doing all these ads, you're doing all of this, and then they're coming in and they're just dribbling out the other side. Then what's the point of doing that? You might as well just save your money and buy whiskey or tequila, as it were. So,
most studios, we even have an ad out saying exactly this. Most studios, this is just our data. It's just like the hard truth that we see. And when I say most, I mean like 90% of studios do not need more leads at first. They need conversions and sales. They have enough people coming in. All those people are just going back out. And when you do that, going back to tying it to what Carol was saying too, like if you run an ad for 2 weeks and you're like, I didn't get 1,000 people and they didn't involve whatever. So like ads don't work for me. I quit. And we're like, well, that's not exactly right. Like you didn't test it long enough. But also, let's say you run your ads for 3 months and then you don't feel like your business is growing and you're like, I'm spending this money on ads. I'd probably be about the same if I just cut them. That might be true, but it might not be because of the ads. It might be because you're so shit at converting that then it's just inefficient. Like it just costs you too much to acquire somebody. So in a roundabout way, your marketing will feel like it doesn't work because you can't convert. There we go.
What are some like start at the beginning, like what does it look like to be shit at converting? And what does it look like? What are like 2 or 3 practical things that someone could do tomorrow to start being better at this?
love that question.
Yeah, this
Carol,
is such a good question.
Carol,
what's our metrics?
Yeah, Carol, what's
what are you saying?
God. Well, I mean, a lot of what we see on average is a 50% conversion onto intro, or some of them are a lot lower than that. Am I frozen? I'm sorry. I see like everyone's kind of.
We can still hear you.
I'll keep talking. Okay. But our goal is 70%. So we're trying to get out of 100 people walking in the door, we want 70% to come back for a second class, right? So what is still surprising to me talking to studio owners is the ones that are scared to ask their team to do anything. Like it still is, it still happens. I don't know, like you're running a business,
Totally.
You need to have like the wherewithal to see like, here, this is a business, you're an employee or an independent contractor, we have an agreement, and these are the things I need you to do to help support the business. And so, yeah, just even getting over that hump, like ask your team to help you, train the shit out of them. That's kind of like the basic things. But going back to the metrics. Oh yeah, Josh, go ahead.
Yeah, I think that asking them to help, right? Like you've got to get over that fear. We see that a lot. Like, oh, well, I can't. It's just, I love Terry can go on a rant for an hour about this one. Like, oh, just it's only their part-time job, so yeah, yeah, it gets Terry fired up. But it's still their job. It's still their job. Here's practical thing though you could do around this. Carol and I do this when we do on-sites all the time. Carol's exceptional at this. We play the fly on the wall. We just go sit in your lobby and pretend you're looking at your phone or something and literally count for every person that comes in, what happens? Like, is their name used? Did they pitch them on something? Did you talk about yoga? If it's a new person that came on a drop, like, did we even make the offer? And I would bet at a lot of studios when you do this and you were to look at just hard data, if you did that for a whole day, 5-6 classes in a day, and you realize that like the pitch is only happening 10% of the time. It's not that your team is trying and they're shit at it and the person's like, no, I don't want to buy your intro, which is this insane deal. It's that no one is fucking saying anything. That's usually what we see in the beginning. That's the first practical thing. Like sit down and count that out and just get really real about where is actually the problem. Is it that your team's pitching and trying and failing and therefore we need to improve? Or is it like that nothing's happening? Go ahead, Bridget.
My team has to list in a spreadsheet every single person who's new or on their new client special, and every single drop-in and every single guest pass. And then they have to tell me, like, if you did not convert them, why? Did you have a conversation with them? Yes or no? If you didn't, why did you not have a conversation with them? And like, just even having that accountability is so huge, because they know at the end of the day, they're going to have to explain themselves. Like, what happened here? So just that is like a pretty simple, it does take up time, but most people are always asking me, like, what can my front desk staff do during class anyway, which is crazy. So there's plenty of, and I understand because I've totally been there before and I was that studio owner for a long time, but like, this is one thing they can do. They can add to this spreadsheet and say, hey, here's all the new people. And that in and of itself is just a really simple SOP that you can just like implement like tomorrow.
And to Bridget's point, the why they didn't, and to give them, for example, not interested is really not, try to get the real reason. And so the why is important for you as the owner, or if you have a manager, is that then you can see where the additional training needs to be done. So maybe they're good at converting if someone gives this type of resistance. They're fine at doing that. But when they're getting this type of resistance, they're horrible at it. Well, that just means we need to come up with language for them. We need to train them on that specific thing so that they can get it. So maybe they're really good at converting drop-ins, but they're shit at converting buddy passes. Well, let's focus on converting buddy passes, right? So, and having that the training as part of it, and that's where that spreadsheet comes in super handy. And yeah, it takes time. And I hear owners say, well, I can't, they're not filling it out. And I'm like, you tell them they have to fill it out. And if they're not filling it out and they keep not filling it out, then what? This is the other conversation, is we tend to, in the yoga world, let people get away with shit. Right? We're afraid to like hold them accountable, teachers included. And I'm always like, okay, if you're going to require this and someone's not doing it, what are the consequences of them not doing it? Right? It's like having a rule with your kids and they break the rule and nothing happens. Guess what? They're going to keep breaking that rule. And then before you know it, you got 3 other kids breaking the same rule because they get away with everything, and then everything just goes to shit. So we talked a lot about this. Is having those policies in place. And then if someone's not doing what they're supposed to do, have a mechanism. And it could be up into including, you know what, Bridget? We've talked about this several times. It's still not happening. I'm afraid this just isn't working out. Here's your final paycheck. Thanks for being part of the team. Goodbye.
It's one of the quirks of the yoga industry. Like, why is this, not why, how is this even a conversation? Oh, I have a hired employee who works at the front desk, who one of the steps of their job is to fill out a form at the end of the night, and they just don't do it. And I'm like, Like, what other, think of a restaurant where it's like at the end of the night you got to polish some silverware and you're like, nah, I'm not gonna do that, and you just leave. You're fired the first fucking day. Like, I'm not saying go fire people. I'm just saying, like, it's so not acceptable in other industries that it wouldn't even be a conversation. And the reason I use a restaurant as an example is, think about your average front desk employee. That's categorically a person who might also work in a restaurant. Like, it's not a different person. We're not that outside of these other things. Anyways, I agree. What I was going to say though, Bridget, I think it's brilliant. We did this in a different way with teachers too, but this is where the concept of business transparency comes in, and business accountability, where the system itself is the enforcement on the accountability, and the transparency is like, you have to admit to yourself what's happened, and then it's going to get sent to me, and I'm not going to micromanage you, but I will see it. And also, we did with the teachers, the whole team sees it. We posted the teachers' retention rates quarterly for everybody. And we had one teacher one time ever in 10 years that was like, I don't really like that, them seeing my retention rate. I'm like, then you're not teaching here, because we're a team, and as a team, we're going to help each other. we're not giving anyone shit. You didn't lose or win something, or whatever. It was just like, this is the truth of what's happening objectively right now. And so I don't know. I feel like these are little things that if you can implement systems like the front desk doing end of shift report and explaining these things, even in the beginning, if you don't do anything with it, you don't personally go look at it, no one wins or loses anything. You just get them doing it. Just the action of them doing it and having to think about it and pay attention to it is the red car scenario we're talking about again, where it's like, then you're paying attention to it and there's a reminder all the time. Oh, right. New people and intro people, I should be engaging them. I should be talking. Like, that's how you start to get that to happen. So
Well, and then the
practical
other,
step, that's step one. Like, get them having the conversation. Who
get
cares
them
what they
having,
say?
yeah, get them having the conversation. And then another a little tip you can do, which can be quite fun, is with your front desk and even with your teachers, is what's the goal for membership? I mean, it's like, okay, we need to have whatever it is. We need to get 5 new members a week or whatever that number is. It's like, okay, this is how many members we have. What can we do to, how many more conversations can we have this week to see how many more members we can get, right? You can do the same thing with your front desk with, like, if you have retail sales, like, what's our retail goal? Okay, our daily retail goal is this. You're not there. It's like, okay, who can oh, Carol's coming in. She's always good for some retail. And, so who can I talk to about this type of thing? So this is the other thing about when you start tracking stuff and making people accountable, is then it actually can get kind of fun once they get trained.
One little fun thing you can do with my spreadsheet is if you convert them to a membership, you get to turn the whole thing green, like the whole line, and you get to put your name on there. And so it's just so fun to see, like, how much green can I like do today?
I was going to say we also had a calendar in the staff room, if you've got the space for it, where at the end of your shift, everyone knew what the goal was for the month, and then it was broken down per day for revenue. So they would pull the end of shift sales report, and they had to go right on their day. It would have the goal at the top of the little piece, like what it was supposed to be. So then they would write what they actually made, and then they used a different color to either do like a big red X or a big huge green check mark of like, did we make it, yes or no, that day. Same thing. No one got in trouble. It wasn't nothing, but it was like every day the front desk team would look at this calendar and be like, are we hitting it or not? And but they get to do the big green thing, which some people would comment on. They're like, just feels so good to put that green check mark on there.
And here's the thing there, if you have people on the team, on the front desk team, that makes them uncomfortable with that, then it might be that they're not the right person for the job. That you need.
I agree. I'm just going to interject and say, I don't think that's the case. Straight up. I think that talking to people in sales, yes, the front desk team pushes back on this. I don't think that the front desk team doing things like writing down their sales targets, filling an end of shift report, I don't think they're scared of that. I think owners are scared of that. I think
True.
owners are scared. I think owners are scared of asking them that. I think a lot of owners are like, I don't want my team to know how much money we're making. And like, look, at the risk of sounding like I'm talking some shit, most owners are like, corporate America is a problem. We should be more transparent what's happening in government. Like, there's all these other principled conversational things going on. And then it's like, but in my business, I wouldn't dare want my teachers to know how much money I made if you're doing well. And I'm talking about studios that are doing well. Like, that's where we see that. If the studio's doing shitty, owners make the mistake of telling people that they're doing shitty, even their own clients. Well, we're barely making it, we're scraping by, haven't paid myself. They put that narrative into their team. It's tough to run a yoga studio. They start doing well and they shut up. They don't say anything to anyone. They keep it real close to the chest. They actually don't. They're like, well, I can't hand this over to this employee, this payroll thing or whatever, because they'll have to have access to this, and they would see the numbers of the studio. And they like actually feel guilty about it or bad, or they're scared of it. That's not right in my mind. There's a lot to unpack about that. I'm just saying, like, I see this, I would say this is the norm. So that trickles down into some of this behavior too. Well, I don't want my team to write down the numbers. It's their uncomfort.
True. But I still think if they're uncomfortable and don't do it, then you need to make sure you're hiring the right people.
Oh, for sure. The staffing thing, I feel like in our coaching programming, in the Yogapreneur business framework, staffing is a through component. It's one of the things where it's like, of the breath, body, spirit, mind of your business, the body is the team and organizational structure. And think about it like your body in from a yoga principle too. Your body is, call it your sanctuary or your temple. It is your tuning fork for the mind. And the concept that has been articulated in multiple ways, but Tony Sanchez actually had the best way to articulate this. You have to first get your physical body fit and healthy, because if it's not, then your mind is always trapped in your body. As soon as you're sick or hurt or can't move, you realize how important your body is. And during that moment, what you don't realize until later is like, you're not thinking about, you're not contemplating larger life. You're not working on your meditative practice. You're not growing yourself mental, emotionally, because your body hurts. Nothing else matters. Literally nothing else matters. Your brain can't do anything else, just your body. Therefore, if your team and organizational structure are the body of your business, if you don't have a good team, or you don't have an organizational structure, or your team is ailed, that's the same as having a knife stuck in your leg. Everything else you want to do in life doesn't fucking matter. You can't do anything. You're totally stuck. That's what's happening in your business. So it's not necessarily step one, but it's one of the first steps. Like you've got to get a little gritty. It's not about being authoritarian or mean to people or anything like that by any means whatsoever. In fact, that doesn't even work. But on a personal level, I think for owners, you've got to get a bit gritty about your team and be like, this is my body. Like, it's not an option for my body to not work properly. I got to fucking fix it. I got to deal with this, and then do it. Inclusive, Terry, to your point, that might mean some surgery. You know, bad analogy, but I was just trying to stick on the same.
No, that's actually a great analogy. I mean, you're right. It's the same thing. And sometimes you do have to get gritty, and gritty sometimes can mean recognizing if you're starting to make some radical changes to your organization and structure, which we often see when we start working with clients, is that there may come a time where people you recognize that the separation, it's time to do the separation. And you need to sometimes get gritty about that. And it's hard, it's uncomfortable, and almost in every case where this has happened, where this has happened with clients, there's always like this collective sigh of relief when that person is gone. Right? Even if they were considered like a rock star, really popular, really this, really that, or the converse of that, they were really good. They were shitty to some people, but to the owner, they were, like, what's the brown nose in it kind of thing, right? Is that okay to still say that? I don't know.
I don't know. I haven't heard that for a while. I like it.
Yeah. So anyway, yeah. So
let's bring it back.
Yeah. That's the other thing too, is sometimes you have to get gritty if someone is constantly pushing back and questioning it, and even though everybody else is bought in and you have one person, then that might be, like you said, surgery is required. Carol, did you ever have to do that with your team? Especially, I know when you start with, yeah. Oh, I heard it.
100%. Oh, yeah. I mean, I think though, I never was afraid of doing it. I definitely waited longer than I should have, thinking it was going to get better. And so, like I was definitely willing to work with people and try. I mean, I don't have a problem confronting, or that sounds a little bit too harsh, but like having the hard conversations with people. I never felt like that was the problem, but we definitely would let things go longer than they should, giving people a chance. And then, but ultimately, like every single time when we finally cut the cord, it was better. So, we wait, you wait too long. We're trying, we're still yogis, like we want to give people chances. And, but yeah, I've never felt like, a lack of, what's the word? Like, I didn't feel like the teachers were running the show. Like, I did always feel like me and my business partner were at the helm, and you're going to come on, let's go. You're following me. This is what we're doing. And I'm going to ask you to do these things, and I expect you to do these things. And so that was never our issue. But yeah, I did have a little like of that same, like waiting too long before letting those people go. Josh?
I was just thinking as you were saying that, the waiting too long part, I feel like that happens by accident, but also like where is this tension? Like the waiting too long is because I'm thinking something's going to change. And then it doesn't, because unless you really directly ask people, people don't just change on their own in the ways that we think of it as an owner. We got to give them some direction. But like if the body of your business is the team and the organizational structure, it's when you start to shift the organizational structure, when you start to say like, okay, here's how we're going to organize and what you're going to need to do as part of that. That's where then the team fights against it. And that's like when someone says, my back hurts or my legs hurt or whatever else, and you say, hey, cool, you need to stretch and yoga practice every day. And they're like, well, I'm not going to do that. And it's like these things are at odds when they're not actually at odds. And I feel like that's the team sometimes too. You start to adjust organizational structure, or conversely, you start to work with someone on the team. And this is where owners can take a lot of like kind of radical responsibility. Start to work with Bridget. Bridget's not getting the results, but she's really actually putting the effort in and cares, and realize she has no organizational structure around her to succeed. And that's in fact the problem. That's on you. Cool. Then build that sort of thing.
Which goes back to the point I made earlier, is like with social media, if you just have someone doing it and there's no structure to it, to any job in your organization, then how can you expect people to succeed? And just another, I guess this is another point, but I'm going to make it anyway, Josh. Josh challenged me before the call, because those of you who've been listening to the roundup for know that I never have a problem talking. But Josh's challenge for me today was to stick to one point at a time. And I've been pretty good for that so far. But I am going to say here, to go back to what Carol said, and we've all alluded to, here's a good gut check for something with regards to your team. If you are actively avoiding going into your studio because there's someone on the team that you just don't, it's like there's a problem and you just don't want to acknowledge, don't want to, whatever it is, actively do not want to go into your studio because there's a certain teacher, staff member there, that's a problem. And if it's gotten to the point where, like to your point, Carol, and I too waited too long to get rid of some folks to let people go. But if it gets to the point where you are actively like avoiding your business, your own business, because Bridget is there, I don't want to talk to Bridget, you have a big problem. And other than you selling the business, it might be time for Bridget to go. So I just want to make that, because I hear that a lot. I've had that, not a lot, I've had that happen actively a couple of times where an owner's like, I don't even want to go in when Carol's there. I'm like,
yeah, can we be crystal clear on this? That's not okay.
No, that's, yeah.
That should never be the case.
Yeah.
If you're ever terrified of going in your own business because of your own employees, something is fucked up. Like, again, no shade on them, on you, on whatever, but just someone has to say it out loud. Because I think this is what we talk about as the owner, you get isolated at the top. You're kind of like in your own world, and other people don't necessarily get this. So it's our job to call it out as coaches. Like, it's not that that's not good. That's not okay at all. That should never be the case. If it is, it should be addressed immediately. And there's some contemplation put into like, why did it get to this? How is it possible it even got to that place at all? How do we avoid that in the future?
I want to pop to have been that yoga studio owner before, and I think that if you are that yoga studio owner, it can feel like, how could I ever move? How could I ever move out of that pattern? Like, this is probably how you've been, and I talk about this a lot, but like, this is probably how you've been your whole life. Like, this is probably like your inability to like talk directly with people, having fear, like being easily intimidated by certain kinds of people. Like, this is a really common pattern for some people. And so I want to direct you not as much to specific resources, but look into codependency. Like, so you can look up, like, are there any books that catch your eye? Are there podcasts that catch your eye about this topic? Anxious attachment, which is usually talked about in the context of romantic relationships, but it's exactly the same thing going on here. And just in general, like, anything by Brene Brown. She talks a lot about stuff like this. But this will take, in order to actually shift this, yes, part of it is just going out and just being really brave and doing it. But I know from experience that that can feel like absolutely impossible if you're stuck in these patterns. So if this is really common for you, it will take a little bit of work, like emotional, internal work, to get to a place where you're more comfortable, but it's definitely doable because I've done it. And I'm not remarkable in any way. And I now, like, that would never happen in my yoga studio now. And I have really direct conversations with all my employees. And it's not that it's easy all the time. Sometimes I have conversations that I'm like, oh my God, I do not want to talk about this right now. But I can still do it, and I've proven to myself that I'm like brave enough to do it, and I can do it. So it's hard, but it's so worth it, and we will be rewarded on the other side, like abundance, like such better relationships, so much good stuff is on the other side of that fear.
Well, to that point, what is it? Courage, bravery is not the absence of fear; it's the action in spite of it, right? So these are simple things. It's interesting wording to use, to be like courage and bravery to just talk to your team. But no, but actually, physiologically, emotionally, that is what's happening. Like, it feels like that. It can be really intense. This is why being an entrepreneur, especially yoga studio owner, but I mean, any studio owner, Pilates bar, boutique fitness, whatever, like, it is your yoga practice. It's just like, you do yoga practice and you become a teacher, and at some point you realize, oh shit, teaching yoga is my yoga practice as well. And then you do that again as an owner, but it's like 100-fold. It's just all this stuff. So cool. Like, how lucky for you that you get to develop yourself in the face of these challenges. Most people don't even get the opportunity. You're not in the oblivious category. Yay. And it'll suck sometimes. Well, both are true. Yeah. I like that. I mean, that's one of the things, to toot our horn for a minute as coaches. Like, we've all been there. We've all done it. We've all had that situation. We've all had to grow individually in our own studio and with our employees and as coaches and whatever else. Like, we get it. One of the things a client came on their first call yesterday with Bridget and I said was like, I've done all this other coaching with other people, but I kept running into this issue that, like, there's some value in what they're saying, but they don't get it. Like, they don't understand the dynamic of the yoga studio, and some of the stuff they're saying, it's not that it doesn't work at all, but the nuance of it doesn't work in the yoga studio. And we kind of said, yeah, like, we hear that all the time. It's just a quirky thing. Running a studio, boutique fitness and wellness, like, it's its own beast, and this component of it, the type of growth that it will require you to do. The good news is that you get to grow in that way. So Lucky you. What do you guys think about this? Tying some of this together, this transparency thought is something that's been in my mind for a long time. And so I feel like it's a good way to tie some of this together. Like if you want your team to perform better, you want them to do the sales and conversion part, also you're putting effort into your marketing. One thing that I see is the team's not really included in what's going on. And we hear that from teams when we do surveys too, and we go to an onsite and stuff, is they're like, well, I feel disconnected from what's happening in the studio. They just come in and they teach and they leave, and they don't know what else is happening. They're not performing well. I feel like that's a pretty low-hanging fruit practical thing that ties together all of this in some way. Example, let's say you put out 2 or 3 ads on social media and they have a specific message and there's a call to action to book a class or whatever like that. Or going back to what we said, like create a piece of content about your teacher. Make your team watch them. Like, why would you run ads and your team not know about it? Like, send them the ads and be like, hey, can you watch these ads? And like, that's it. Just watch them, just so you know what we're saying out there. I think the expansion of this thought is that at an onsite Carol and I were out recently, I'm pretty sure is when one of these comments happened. The teacher or someone makes a suggestion. They're like, well, I think the business should do this or do that. And then the owner says, but yeah, like we're doing that. And just the nature of that possibility shows that like the owner or the manager are doing something, the team has no idea it's even happening. And so that develops this kind of tension that doesn't need to be there. It's just a lack of transparency of what's going on. Anyways, I'm kind of rambling now. That's my thought. What do you guys think?
No, I think that ties back into how do you get your team on board and the why of the studio as a whole, like, and then it makes them feel included in the bigger picture of things. Like I was just talking to a studio owner the other day and she's like, yeah, we're doing a challenge. And so I put it up there but she didn't tell the team. It was just sort of like, so how do they even talk about it? Do they even know what it's about? I mean, this is something I think they do regularly, so it's probably like not entirely surprising that it's like, oh, it's that time of year. But, from a standpoint of like just getting the team like awareness, going back to awareness, that's always a thing. That like that's where I think when I started to do my Monday minutes, I know I've talked about this before, but it's like a short 5-minute video every Monday goes out to the team about the little things or the bigger picture, like whatever it is, but it made them feel involved and understand where we're coming from, where we're going, the things they needed to work on. It just, I don't know, there's definitely something to that. And I think not enough studio owners are doing that.
Truth. The Monday Minutes is brilliant. I recommend that all the time in coaching, especially if you have more than one location. Like one location, you should still do this, but especially if you have more than one location, it's just really efficient way to just keep some connection. And by expansion of that, there's some like you need some centralizing force in your team, because let's say you've got 3 locations and you've got teachers who only teach at a specific location, and then some that move between them, and desk who, whatever, like even within one studio, the teachers don't actually cross paths all the time, and not with the owner and then not with the other studios. There's got to be some centralizing thing that like we're all, because you want your team rowing the boat in the same direction. So just the simple weekly Monday minutes, like that's super high powered. But the transparency part too, it's like I need to feel like I'm part of something. Otherwise, it is just a job. I am just coming in for the paycheck, or I'm just going to come in and teach the class and go home and do whatever the fuck I want for myself and be selfish. Not because I'm a terrible person, but because I'm a human and that's what we do. So if I'm not part of something bigger, the why factor, the buy-in, I'll give them something. Okay, cool. So I think that's it for today. Whew, we solved some problems. What marketing are you doing right now? And if it's nothing, put nothing. Comment it down below. What is your like primary marketing effort? The active thing that you're doing consistently or building consistently right now for marketing. The goal to get people in the doors. What is it? Be interesting to see if anyone's got any outside of the box things going. And again, if you're just not really actively doing it, like on the daily, on the weekly, put that too. I think it's pretty straightforward. Go ahead, Carol.
Well, I guess that's it. That's a wrap on this week's weekly roundup. Listen every Thursday morning right here on Facebook, or subscribe to Studio Cult TV on Spotify, YouTube, or wherever you're listening from. See you next week.
Bye.
Bye.